Hello there, this is Gage Williams coming at you with the next installment of this video series. We are taking on Tiger Temple next in our determination to take down every Oxide Ghost. Tiger Temple is a course that I myself do not really know that much about. I rarely play this track. I often forget it even exists because, I don't know, I think the track layout is kind of boring and really isn't very fun for time trial purposes. Due to these right here. You see these bumps? They're everywhere. Namely these ones. They just screw up the pacing of everything. They will throw off some landings. They will ruin some drifts. I just wish they weren't there. The small ones, I just wish weren't there. The big ones, I don't really have a problem with them. I mean, you'll see those in another track later on. They're perfectly fine, but these ones right here, I hate them so much. And then there are these thin, narrow hallways, which are all but impossible to snake around effectively unless you just enter them perfectly, which I really do. I mean, this is one of my sloppiest tracks. I never play this. Here, I'm trying to see how much I can get away with in terms of cutting the terrain. And you might have noticed one of the peculiarities of CTR's mechanics is, even if you're being slowed down while you're in the grass, like I was almost at a standstill, but I still had the boost going. As soon as I got back onto the track, I regained all momentum instantly. That's something to keep in mind for whenever you want to take off-road shortcuts, is that if you can just make it to the track again without losing your boost, you will just regain any momentum that you might have lost. So seriously, you gotta cut these terrains. I mean, there's no downside to doing it unless you try and cut too much. Right here, you'll notice I came to a complete stop, and I hate coming to a stop and at least in terms of drifts, is what I mean. I hate stopping my drifts for a straightaway. I'm doing time trials so I can just drift endlessly without having to worry about interruptions. And then there's these thin hallways with these bumps in them, and I do not like this track.
Let's see if you can beat my fastest time on this track.
Thank you, Entroby. That being said, regardless of how much I tend to struggle with this track, and how much I do not think it is well geared for time trials, if you notice my other horrible time on that leaderboard, what I was doing was I was messing around with the no frame rate option and just trying to play through, and drifting with no frame rate is impossible. I mean, you just go too fast, and I don't know. It was kind of fun, and I still saved the time for some reason. Anyway, as much as I do not like this track, and I never go here, and I don't think it's a good track for time trial purposes, it's an easy ghost. I mean, these first tracks are supposed to be easy. I mean, that's why they're listed first. It's preferred, or presumably by difficulty. Although I would argue that Crash Cove is probably the most difficult track that we've done so far. This one is definitely one of the easiest. And I don't know what it is. It's just the Oxide Ghost, and especially the Entropy Ghost. The best way I can put this is you're not going to crush these ghosts like you might at a place like Ruse Tubes, where it's an easy ghost and you can just absolutely decimate them. Here, you won't really decimate the Oxide Ghost, but if you know what you're doing, and with just a little bit of experience on the track, you will beat him, almost no question. I mean, he's not that tough of a ghost. He starts off pretty strong, but he just kind of gradually lowers in terms of how efficient he is at his drifting. And just constantly being airborne. I hate being airborne. Unless you enter the ramp while drifting, you don't drift while you're airborne, and that's the whole reason I'm playing this game, is so I can drift some more, because drifting is so much fun, and I can't do it with all these bumps. Right there, you'll see, that just killed all momentum just because I happened to land on the wrong side of a hill. And now I'm stuck in this slow hallway where I can't drift, and
my time on this track.
Look at that consistency.
Now you'll face Oxide's best time, and I doubt you can beat that.
Consistency, that's what I like to see. Also, you can tell it was a bad run because my first lap was my fastest lap, and that should never be. Your first lap should always be your slowest lap, just because of the way entering speeds work. I mean, you can get the boost right at the start, but it's still not equivalent to what you would be doing and the positioning that you would have coming into it from a second or third lap. Your first lap should always be your worst. So if you are going along and you notice that your first laps are consistently your best laps, that means that you have quite a bit of improvement that you can do. You have the potential to do better. And I'm not saying that to be rude or anything, it's just you have to take it as a learning curve. If your first laps are better, then you need to work on your positioning entering the starting line more on your next laps. And right there, look at that momentum kill. It's just awful. And then I happened to jump over that little thing because of the hill, and now I'm going to be falling behind. Because, seriously, screw those small hallways. I hate them so much. Those little bumps, I do not like this track. I ranted on that enough, though. Tips for Tiger Temple. If you can, try and drift immediately upon landing from one of these many airborne things. And like in the Ruse Tubes video with the sharp decline, don't even bother jumping off that ramp. Just slide over it. What you're going to see here, I enter a drift right away as soon as I land. You want to try and do that as much as possible here. You're going to be losing a lot of time due to the air in this one. You're going to be jumping a lot, and you're going to be losing a lot of time. Cut across the grass, but don't cut too far, as you saw in my very first run in this video. If you can manage to get a good air time at the end of a ramp like I just did there, try it, but they're very situational, and I would aim for just going for drifts instead of jumps here. And that's going to be a key that you're going to learn in all of CTR, is you want to pretty much always just learn to drift as soon as you land. I mean, there's no downside for doing so. You are getting a boost from the hang time, which nullifies the slower turning speed while you rattle off more boosts. I mean, it's basically just a flawless system. Thank you for joining me for this relatively whiny video. I'm sorry, I really hate this track, and I'm glad to be over with it. Hopefully, the next one will be better, but I would doubt it. Thank you, everybody, for watching.